Hello and welcome to Module 4 of the Black Belt Confidence Programme. What we're going to be looking at here is the fourth module, and this is a green belt, and this is about strengths. But before we get on with that, how are you getting on so far? What we've covered so far in the first three modules, let's just do a very quick recap. First of all, we looked at responsibility, taking full personal responsibility. We talked about the importance of Zanshin. In a physical sense, it's about seeing what's going on around us. But it's also a mental thing of just being aware. One of the ways in which we get awareness is by taking a little bit of time out. How are you getting on with the Moxo? Remember the breathing technique? Those nice 5 deep breaths just coming out. Just give yourself a little bit of time, distance yourself, and you can see all more things that are going on. We talked about the circle of responsibility, taking responsibility for everything that's in your circle. You don't have to like what's in your circle, but at least if you start to take responsibility for it, you can then move on. Second module, we talked about goals, how top achievers have things in common, and the biggest thing they have in common is those 5 words of 4 letters. They know what they want. We talked about the 10-year-old boy who wanted to be the most famous swordsman, and how the master said, forget your goals. Don't think about just training hard and being the greatest swordsman. Just take each day as it comes. We talked about short steps and how we can control the actual systems of each of those short steps. And most importantly, we talked about having fun and having some rewards as we go along those programs. However big and scary the goal is, it's just a series of short steps. And in the last module, module 3, we talked about beliefs. You remember the story about Ellen Langer and about how she had a group of old men, and the ones that were living 20 years younger basically got younger. They just believed they were younger. They were 20 years younger. We also talked about a placebo in the medical world, where people believe they're doing something, even though it's often a sugar pill, but they get better. Beliefs are very important. The negative beliefs, the ninjas that hide in the cerebellum, do you remember that at the back of the head? Well, they don't come out that often, but when they do, they reveal themselves to us in our self-talk. And we had 3 ways to overcome a limiting belief. We had take the T out, we had to question it, and we had visualization. So, module 4. This is a big area for me. I've had great feedback from this. I'm sure it's going to help you in terms of being more confident, and it's about strengths. Let me tell you a very quick karate story. There was a ferocious karate competitor in the 1960s and 1970s, a guy called Steve Cattle. Sadly, he's dead now. I'm going back 40, 50 years here. But he was ferocious. But Steve Cattle had a problem, because for a karate competitor, for someone who was fighting, he was short. And when we do kicks in karate, I can sort of get my foot up to about head height, but to actually get above head height, it's like, whoa, I need a crane to get up there if I'm fighting someone up there. So he's a short guy, and he's fighting people who are like this. He never threw a kick. My sensei said he saw him fight a few times. He never saw him throw a kick. But he was one of the world's top fighters. What he realized was he had very fast arms. And he had a technique which in karate is Jodan Yurakan Uchi, just means hammer back fist right to the face. And basically it's just this. You just straighten the elbow and you come in. So you're fighting with someone and it's just bang. And you can do all sorts of clever things. You can come in this way, so you'll think, oh, I'm coming in that way, and actually I come in that way. I can go to throw a punch, I can roll the elbow, and I come in and I go round, and it's coming from that angle rather than that angle. So Steve Cattle realised that he had very fast arms. And what he did was he practised with his very fast arms, and he used to practice, and he practised, and he practised. And he was renowned for just doing these techniques, these very simple two techniques, hammer back fist right, left or right. And people, he said, they hated fighting him. And the thing is, they knew what was coming. They said, I know what he's going to do. I just didn't know when. Bang. So what he was doing was he was ignoring his weakness, which is kicking. And he was playing to his strengths of very fast arms. And in 1975, at the World Championships in California, Steve Cattle was part of the British men's team that in the final did something that no other team had ever done before when they beat the Japanese men's national team. And he never threw a kick. and we're like this. We've got weaknesses. Traditionally, in the corporate world, you know, if you're really good at presenting and you're really bad at spreadsheets, they say, "Oh, you've got to get good at spreadsheets." It's like, no. Why don't you just go and get even better at presenting, and then even better at presenting, and even better at presenting? So we're going to ignore our weaknesses, and we're going to play to our strengths. That's what Steve Cattle did. That's the mentality of a black belt. That by itself can give you a massive, massive boost to your confidence, because whatever situation you're in, you think, oh, I'm playing to one of my strengths here. I know it's important to take these strengths and to build on them, because studies have shown that when we believe that strengths are just innate, and it's just like, oh, we've just got them and there's nothing I can do about it, I'm just naturally good at this, I'm not going to work hard at it. The problem with that is that when things go wrong and we're facing tough times, there's nothing else to do. There's nowhere else to go. So, oh, my strength, oh, it's not going to help me. It's like, oh, no. It's like, no. But if you've got a belief, and then you built on it, and then you built on it, and then you built on it, when times get tough, you will rely on that, and it will be there for you. So, the question is, how can we identify the strengths that we've got? Well, here's 3 ways. I like 3s, as you're probably getting. 3 ways are good. So the first way, first of all, we're doing something and time just flies. It might be doing something on a spreadsheet. You're doing something on a spreadsheet and then you look up and like an hour and a half has gone. You think, where did that go? What's happened is you've just become engrossed in it. There is a strength, or strengths even there, that is something natural to you, because time is it's just gone. So be aware of things that you do. Perhaps have a think. Maybe if you want to hit pause right now and have a think about what is it that I do things, and then time just flies. I don't mean drinking down the pub and things like that. We're talking primarily about work type stuff here, but it could be a hobby, it could be anything. And you think time just flies. So that's the first way. The second way is maybe you've won an award for something. You might have awards. I'm not talking again like 25-metre breaststroke, but maybe you've won an award for something. But even 25-metre breaststroke, well, maybe there's some resilience in there. Maybe there's some of the fact that you apply yourself to something. Maybe you struggled, but you overcame it. Well, how did you do that? Do a little bit of introspection, because your strengths are within your circle. That's one of the important things to realise here. They're things that you control. What we're going to do is we're going to focus on them, and by focusing on them, we're going to grow them and grow them and grow them, particularly with the next thing I'm going to talk to you about. So, have you won an award for something? And then thirdly, is about what others people say. So, what do other people say? I say, oh, you're really good at that. And you go, am I? Well, that's a key sign you've got a strength, because sometimes it's easier for other people to spot things than for us to spot them ourselves. So there's the 3 ways. Time flies, others say things, and we win or have won an award. So there's 3 ways. Just start thinking about yourself. What is in my circle? What is it that I'm good at? When does time fly? When do people say, oh, you've done really something good at that? What are those awards on my desk or on my wall or something like that for? So have a think about it, and it can just be something like, you know, well, for me, one of the things I'm really good at is preparing. So I will prepare to the level that I need to do to be as confident as I need to feel. So if you say go and speak to 5,000 people, it's like, okay, how long have I got? And then how much can I prepare? And I would prepare, and I would prepare, and I would prepare. So when I walked on stage, I would know that I had prepared to my very best, and I was almost certainly going to deliver the best talk that I could possibly give. So one of my strengths is prepare. You'll have lots of strengths, have a think about them. When we've got our strengths, the next thing we can do is we can take a strength from one area of our lives and we can apply it to another area. And people talk a lot about transferable skills. I'm really big on transferable strengths, because if you've got a strength, the ability to prepare, or whatever it might be for you, then you can apply that to all different areas of your life, in business, in life, in social, in family, in sport, in whatever it might be. You've got a strength. So let me share with you a couple of stories. So as you already know, one of my students was an actor in Harry Potter, and he was coming up for his black belt grading after having trained for 4 years, and he was getting really nervous. And so we had a bit of a chat, and I said, hang on a minute, you're going on a film set. It's taking you hours to get ready. You're on there with Daniel Radcliffe and everyone else. He said, "Do you get nervous then?" They said, "No." So I said, "Well, can't you just think about the process you go through and then do that for your grading?" And he went, "Yeah." So one of his strengths was he didn't get nervous. When he thought about how not to get nervous, he was really good at it, far better than me. So he passed his black belt first time. And as you know, he only did two things. The first thing he did was that he internalised, he focused on what he could do. That was in one of the previous modules, we were talking about how he was fighting, how he went from there to there. He only did two things, that was one of them. And the other one was, he thought about, well, how do I not get nervous when I'm acting? Well, he just took that straight into his karate. And the other one I had the reverse of that. I had someone who was a boy who was 17 years old, he was a second dan black belt karate guy, and getting very nervous and falling a little bit behind at school with his homework and revising for exams, and he wanted to get certain grades to go into college. And I said, "Well, you've done 2 black belt exams, how did you do that?" And he said, "Oh, well, at home I've got pictures in my bedroom all around me of karate. I've got sayings, I've got a black belt above my door." So I said, "All right, so what you do is you immerse yourself in the environment and you totally commit to it." He said, "Yeah, so okay, so when you're doing some homework, how are you going to totally immerse yourself in the environment?" So, "Well, I'll turn my phone off and I'll do this and everything else." Okay, he passed his exams and he went to college. So he took the strength that he had, that he could totally throw himself into something that he'd learnt from karate when he thought about it, and then he applied it to something else. So, strengths is the longest word in the English language of 1 syllable. It has 9 letters. Okay, and you can just about say it in 1 syllable. Strengths. So just as the word strengths is unique, so your strengths are unique to you. So please have a think about what strengths you've got, how you can build on them by transferring them into other areas of your life.